Hello, and we are back with everybody. If you tuned in to the first one that we had on with Elaine, hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. And please go and check her out. And like I said, we have another episode that we're doing right now. And now, before we get started, I would just like to say thank you guys for tuning in. And this is your first time tuning in. Do me a favor, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And as always, this helps us get the content out to more and more people. This is the podcast where we try to normalize the conversations around death, dying, and grief, so you don't feel so alone. And the podcast serves a few purposes. If you're looking for resources and looking for people that can walk with you, go back and check out a few of those episodes. And also, do me a favor, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, share this with them, please. And bring them in and let them ask those questions and get the help and the resources that they deserve. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. And as always, I have an amazing guest. Please help me welcome my next guest, Henry Gaskins. Henry.
My man, how are you? It is great to see you, and thanks for having me on your show.
Of course, man. Welcome to the show. Before we get into your story, man, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
So, as I said, my name is Henry Gaskins. I am the founder and CEO of Crush Your Mountain Coaching. I help individuals to lose weight, lower their glucose, as well as forge a new path in life. You know, it's amazing that we think about grief and we don't equate grief with obesity. We don't equate grief with type 2 diabetes, but believe it or not, they are, inextricably linked in a lot of ways. So I'm really happy to get a chance to kind of share that with you and talk a little bit about what happens, especially among the African American community, and particularly with Black men, in dealing with things in ways that are a little bit more healthy, more upbuilding for themselves, their families, and the community at large.
I love that. Yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's dive into it. How did you get into this sort of work and having that understanding? Because when we talk about grief, a lot of times people associate grief with loss, right? You know what I'm saying? Or something traumatic, but we never really think about how it affects our body. We just now starting to scratch the surface.
Oh, that's so true. We're, especially as an African American community, we are kind of in the Western medicine camp of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing against that. Okay, I have a palliative or an allopathic doctor that looks after me, and I love my doctor when my doctor is willing to listen to me. The challenge is that we are thinking in terms of the body separate from the mind, separate from our spirit or well-being, sense of being, and we don't think about how one thing affects the other. On the other hand, science is now showing that there is a holistic aspect to medicine, to health. A person's emotions affect how they're feeling. Myself, I'll tell you, some years ago, I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Now, what was happening with me was I was taking care of my wife who wasn't well. I was taking care of my dad who wasn't well. I was taking care of my mom who wasn't well. And I didn't have time for me. In order to take care of my wife, I had to go ahead and work at night. And I did things in terms of my diet to keep me going throughout the night and the rest of the day and a good portion of the day, not realizing how that was affecting me. Then I walked into the doctor's office one day, and they tell me that I'm heading towards type 2 diabetes. Now, if you ever went to the hospital when you were a kid and your mom might have taken you, your dad might have taken you, that the doctors or the nurse will ask you, what's your family history? And more often than not, we say high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, or will just say, yeah, my daddy had sugar, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
right? My daddy had sugar. My grandmother had sugar, what have you. But the challenge is we're taught that everything is genetic. And if your granddaddy had it, your mother had it, your father, well, you will get it. The fact of the matter is there's a thing called epigenetics. And epigenetics really says if you are in an environment that is conducive to your having a certain state, that is a state that you will get.
Mm-hmm.
You can change your environment and change your state. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what happened with our families? We talk about grief as a singular thing. We talk about trauma as a singular thing. But we have to understand that as a community, we suffer an intergenerational trauma. We talk about the transatlantic slave trade. That was a traumatic 400-year Holocaust. Then you're talking about decades afterwards of being sidelined as a community, as a people. You're talking about Jim Crow laws. All those things are traumatic to not just an individual or a family, but an entire community.
Mm-hmm.
So your thinking is affected in a certain way. That's going to affect your health by itself. You're in an environment that's deliberately designed to be less than healthy for you. That obviously is going to affect your health. Now we live in a world where we have to deal with our parents who don't know any better, our siblings who may not know better, or individuals that just can't do better. How does that affect your health? Well, in my case, one of the things I had to think back on as I began to really meditate on my personal history, and my brother and I were talking about this the other day. You know, we noticed that one of the challenges with my, let's just go with my dad, I have never seen, I've seen him laugh, I've seen him smile, but I've never seen a picture with him smiling. And as we thought about it, it occurred to us, and it was just so natural to us that never really dawned on us until here we are in our middle years, our middle age, as they say, and we don't have one picture of ourselves with our dad. Well, what was going on there? He himself was dealing with a depression, but then his wife, our mother, likewise was dealing with an illness. So what does that do to us? How does that affect us? So now let's bring it down to the body itself. When your body is in this state of tension, if you're growing up in that way, you're in an elevated state. You are in a natural fight or flight state. When your body is that way, your blood pressure is up, your glucose is up, because the body is prepared to fight or run or do whatever it takes to avoid, get away from the danger. We live in a community oftentimes where you hear how difficult things are just outside. You live in a family, oftentimes we talk about single parent homes and just dealing with the drama and trauma of that keeps someone in an elevated state. Mm-hmm. Just single mothers trying to raise their children, they're in an elevated state. Either they're going to have to argue with the ex, or they're going to argue with the teenager, or they're going to argue with the teacher, or they're going to argue with somebody, or they're going to try to fight to make it to go to work every day. And when they come home, they can barely relax. Well, what I do with men is I teach them ways of changing their eating lifestyle, because when I was on a diet, if you take the T off of diet, it means you've got the word die. And when I was on a diet, I was heading in that direction.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
Right? So I changed my eating lifestyle, and I teach my clients to change their eating lifestyle. So that's the first thing I did. The other thing that I involved myself in and others in, I involve them in movement. I help them to appreciate that your glucose has to come down, but it has to come down naturally. If you're going to go with insulin, or that is your choice. If you're going to go with Ozempic, that is your choice. But guess what? I'd rather live my life than stay on a drug all my life. And if you take something like Ozempic, you take something like Mounjaro, you take something like Wegovy, you're going to be on it for the rest of your life. If that is your choice, or if you just have no other choice than that. You see, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor. What I am saying is look at your options and decide not what the easiest way is, but the one that will actually keep you well, not keep you in a state of perpetual drug taking to stay relatively well. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So
go ahead.
So anyway, working with that, helping individuals to lower their glucose, one of the things I do is help them to build the muscle, because your muscle is what really sucks up the glucose and helps you to, again, take it out of the bloodstream, because it has to use it for fuel. The other thing I do is help them to arrange their environment. So now, if they can't do that, then we have to help them to create their own sacred spaces. In other words, the time that they can get away, and not necessarily to pray or anything like that, although if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but to take the time to get out in a space that will allow you to de-stress and bring that pressure down. We teach you the breath work, we teach you the movement work that's involved with that, all those things. And that's what I did. So my A1C, and if you don't know what that is the metric that they use to get an average of what your blood sugar is within about a 30-day period. My A1C was 11.9 at one point. It was just crazy, because that's just plain danger zone.
Right.
I was able to get it down to 5.6, which is, here you go, which is normal levels. My goal now is to get it down to 4.6, which is optimal levels. And that's where we want to be. That's how I want to help my clients. And that's what I do. Long story, not long story short, but it could have been longer.
Oh no, man! Look, I enjoy that, right? Because it's right along the alley of, like I'm a personal trainer. I'm a former bodybuilder, right? And so nutrition and exercise is one of the things now, by me being in the world of grief and helping men, I help those men stay in shape, right? When they sign up with me, I say, hey, you can work out with me up to 3 times out of the week. You get to choose your days, you know what I'm saying? But also put a limit to it, because I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to be burned out, you know what I'm saying, as I'm going about doing it. But I also, since I'm not a nutritionist, I just give suggestions with nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I do follow, I follow the four colors, the color codes, right? In foods, right? You know what I'm saying? Like your oranges, like your purples, your greens, your reds, you know what I'm saying? And what those stand for, right? Not like, and I just look at when I come across these men, I pay attention to the way that they're responding or reacting to some of the things that's going on around them. You know what I'm saying? Are they constantly on their toes? Right? Are they constantly is their head constantly on the swivel? Okay. So I know that if they come to group and I get a bunch of blueberries and put them out there, see, it's intentional, because blueberry is going to help you relax a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And everybody's going to be different. You want your little proteins in there. So I'll put some peanuts out there, maybe some cashews and things like that, which is going to help regulate that liver and everything, and get those toxins to kind of go back down in the liver. So that way it helps regulate the heart as well. And then like grapefruits, you know what I'm saying? Things like that, some strawberries, maybe some cherries. I lay out a little plethora of things, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some fish, because fish got that good omega-3 oils in it and things like that. So I'm very intentional about when I do those groups and putting everything out there, laying it out, because you never know who needs what, right? And I'm a firm believer, just like yourself, allowing the body to tell you what it needs.
Mhm.
But if you put it out there, your body will be attracted to those things. Now, like, it's just my way of doing it without actually putting it out there and things like that. But I like seeing people healthy, right? I love seeing people um, giving their body what it needs, but seeing how their body is attracted to certain things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm right there with you. A lot of those things are, I don't want to say hereditary, but I think we mimic and we mimic what our family does or what our family go through. Just like you said, oh, my father had the sugar, my mom had the sugar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And I think a lot of people get wrapped up into saying that they sometimes forget that they do have a choice and not to have the sugar.
But you see, that's the thing. We're told that that's the way it is. You see,
Right.
In fact, nowadays, they have certain doctors, not all of them, but they will actually say that, well, obesity is a metabolic issue, and not a lifestyle issue. You see, they say that, well, you have to eat something, and they don't tell you that the foods that people naturally eat that are highly palliative, highly addictive, are the same foods that are poisonous to the body.
Right.
And that's the biggest challenge. So you're absolutely right. The other aspect of that is, taking the foods, like you mentioned, the blueberries, that will help you to de-stress, but also identifying where the body is storing its energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I say that, we're talking about the emotional energies themselves. One of my colleagues, Dr. David Snyder, he's an incredible guy. And one of the things he helps individuals to do is to kind of take stock of themselves and notice where that negative energy, whether it be grief or anger, okay, resentment, where it's residing, where do you feel it? And then after that, he helped them to identify its shape, its color, the direction that it's rotating, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And he helps them to dispel it that way. Well, it's just those things that we need to stop taking for granted. In other words, hey, there are things that we can do for ourselves. And there's no reason to just allow someone to tell us that we have no other choice than spend the money and take the foods and medicines that are only keep us marginally well, so that the establishment can get rich, so that Novo Nordisk can get rich, and other companies can get rich, but you stay on the spinning hamster wheel of that's the key. People can make a choice.
I totally agree. And I'm glad that you brought up how they're poisoning our foods, right? I don't want to bring out no big names because I don't want them to come after me and go, you slandering us, this and other. But those
Edit
companies,
that out.
huh?
Edit that out.
Hey, we all know who they are, right? You know what I'm saying? But these fast food companies, we found plastic in our foods. We found chemicals in our foods that are actually banned in other countries. Like you said, you start eating certain foods, you get addicted to it, right? And not understand why. But these things have been broken down. They have been broken down. There's been 40 chemicals in this particular brand right here that are man-made. Why is there man-made chemicals in my food, right? Certain things that that you get out of the grocery stores, right? You find out that there's plastic, chunks of plastic in it that's just been blended in with everything else, right? There's been unidentified things in some of the meats that you may find,
Mhm.
right? You know what I'm saying? And let's, and when we think about the fruits, this is why I tell people, if I grab a fruit and I open it up and it doesn't have seeds with it, I don't eat it. Because
Mhm.
for one, I have to question, where did it come from? How did it grow?
Mhm.
I know, like, I don't know. Whatever people believe in, that's on them, but I know that if I'm going to plant something, I need some seeds in order to plant, to grow this piece of fruit, right? You know what I'm saying? From the trees down there to the vines. I need some sort of seeds. If I
Mhm.
don't see the seeds, I don't mess with it. People are like, well, it's just seedless. I'm like, yeah, but how did it grow?
Mhm.
And they go, well, they did this. I'm like, no, it's not natural. But of course, I've been called crazy too. But again, I stick to what I know. I stick to what I know. And, like when you can go back and trace things that are in different countries that they allow over here, that then you start to put two and two together.
Yeah.
But I digress. Education is part of it, and those who want to be educated will do their research and come up and form their own things, right? The foods, right? There was a company that just came out that said that they had not been giving people real chicken in over 10 years. And this is another very prominent fast food restaurant,
I believe it. I believe
right?
it.
And they came out and publicly said it, and people are still going there again. I'm like, so let me just get this straight. They came and told you that the chicken that they give you is not real and have not been real within like the last 10 years, and yet you're going right back to it. Okay, then you deserve exactly what you get. When the zombies come, I know what started it.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something, my man. There's an old sci-fi story. People actually read books years ago, and and in the story, it actually almost foretold this artificial meat syndrome that we see happening now.
Uh-huh.
And, they had a substance called Chicken Little, and
Mm.
people, it was grown out of a vat. And what they would do, they would cut off a piece of it and put it in the styrofoam and put it on the market. And it's almost like that now. They're talking about growing synthetic meat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's the Beyond Burger idea is if you look at the amount of chemicals on the label just to come up with something that looks and tastes like beef, it's insane. But
Yeah.
the other thing too, Tony, when we say, well, how is it that you can't stop eating the chips or can't stop eating certain foods? They hire psychologists, they hire chemists specifically to collaborate on identifying the reward centers in the brain and the chemicals and the flavors that will touch on those centers. So that's the reason why, one of the reasons why people have a trouble breaking free of that stuff. The other reason is this: the government subsidizes these ingredients that goes into all of these different fast foods. That's why it's cheaper. But when we really think about the money that they're saving, and someone that shares our space, but he's kind of in the upper echelons, is Sean Stevens. And Sean Stevenson has a book out called the Eat Smarter Family Cookbook. He's got the Eat Smarter book. Now he has a companion, the family cookbook that goes with it. But, it's very interesting that he was able to bring out how many of these seed oils that are being used are detrimental to the body.
Mm.
Dr. Casey Means, she has a brother, her brother's name is Callie. They have a book out called Good Energy, and they talk about how the food industry is creating foods that are knowingly detrimental to the body, but have people addicted to it. And yet, if we take the time, just as a family, to avail ourselves of basic natural foods, and we prepare those foods, it's actually less expensive than going down to the female with the red hair braids, or the clown with the hair, or the royal burger type guy. Okay, all of those things. Hey, it's actually more expensive to spend all your money to do that in so many ways. It's far less expensive to take the time to prepare the food, to know what you're getting, and to take your kids and to teach them something like that. Teach them how to cook and spend the time with them. You see, we've lost a lot of that, not just within the African American community, but within the global, or at least the national community as a whole, because everybody's doing their own thing. They're on their devices and stuff like that. But if we can take that time and just have that community meal together with wholesome, simple foods. I mean, I love to cook, so I can do it fairly quickly, but it does so much more. You know what I mean? I see people every day that I love dearly, but their mindset is, hey, I don't have time. I'm going to stop over here, pick up some Bojangles. They got, okay, so I'm down here in the South, so Bojangles is like the thing. It's either Bojangles or Popeyes. And they go in and get all this stuff, not realizing that that's a major part of the reason why they are sick. You see? So
Yeah.
it's you want to scream conspiracy, but the fact of the matter is that, perhaps it's just a convergence of events, convergence of circumstances that has brought us to this point. But but it's killing human beings, and it's killing the African American community as a whole. So that's something that we really want to encourage individuals to do. You can ask me another question, because I will run my mouth for the next 12 hours.
No, I was because I was over here while you were saying that. You were saying, getting back to home cooked meals, man. That took me back to a time where grandma was around, big mama was around, sitting around enjoy not only holidays but Sunday dinners, and around with the family. You know what I'm saying? We was taught to cook at a very early age. Just recently getting into my own place again. I've gotten back into cooking, and I really enjoy all those different things. I do agree, like when we talk about the African American communities, somewhere down the line, I think this is where COVID, when we had to go through the whole quarantine thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made it so easy to do DoorDash, to order from these different restaurants and things like that, because the restaurants couldn't have people in there, but they could fix the food and send it to you, right? And when you have limited access to the things that are outside, and you have 600 TV channels, of course you're going to sit around and do what comes easy. Now, here's the other side to it, though, as well. Something that I started putting together and made me want to push out even more to do the work, and work with those men that were struggling with grief, is because it began to reveal a lot of things that people were carrying.
Yes.
Right, you know what I'm saying? The addiction aspect, the mental health aspect, the suicide ideation, and things like that. And in combination with those food, you can see the increase in everything else. Well, not in everything else, in everything that was going on. You could definitely see the increase, and that's why when we go out here, we educate people on where we carry those things in our bodies, right? You know what I'm saying? And how the importance of having those certain foods, you know what I'm saying? Because it allows things to move. It allows things to move. We educate them on how to move the grief through, the importance of the nutrition and how it does affect your body. Because heavier grief, here's where a lot of people don't understand. They don't know how to put two and two together, and Again, do not quote me on this. This is for educational purposes only. Do your research, please. You will carry grief in your lungs, right? You carry grief in your lungs, a lot of your heavier grief, which in turn, if your lungs are not functioning the way that it's supposed to, your insulin level rises in different areas, and like your gallbladder, your liver, things like that. Those enzymes will rise up because it really has nothing. The more foods that you put into your body that are not healthy, your body now has to fight off that right there, which in turn increases how your body functions. And a lot of times your functionality goes down. And that's where your weight loss, your weight gain comes in. That's where your energy level diminishes and things like that. And you actually get to a point to where you don't feel like you want to do these things. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I see. I see it.
Because there's a lot to unpack there. When
Mhm.
Because when we are grieving, oftentimes we have to self-soothe. And if we're in a state where we naturally turn to the stuff that's going to reward us psychologically,
Mm.
okay, then you're taking in that negative food. But of course, that food has what's called obesogens in it.
Hmm.
In other
Yes.
words, chemicals that are designed to actually put weight on. When your body, when we are in a state of lack, which basically that's what grief is. Grief essentially is loss in some way. It doesn't necessarily mean to be the loss in terms of a death, but we are grieving because we have lost something. So now we are seeking to build that loss, fill that void, as it were.
Hmm.
Well, then there's the other aspect of that. Part of that grief is, in terms of soothing ourselves, is protecting ourselves. I know of one young lady who, she put on the weight as a means of protecting herself. Why? Because for many years prior, she had been molested. So, so that's another way of doing that. So we come at it from all different directions. But what does happen with the body is that once we take that food in, if we're not moving, as during COVID, a lot of people just weren't moving. We were Netflix babies and couch potatoes. Okay,
Hmm.
when we are doing that again, the body says, okay, well, I don't have to move right now. I don't have to go anywhere right now. But I know that maybe there's going to be a time. So now let me go ahead and start storing this stuff. Your body's naturally going to store it, but the body's going to store it to your detriment because the time to move never really comes unless we decide to do so. Then there's the other aspect. Even though your body is storing because it's not moving, you're still dealing with everyday life, the stress
Hmm.
that you have. You're turning on the TV and seeing the negative information there, dealing with the kids, or dealing with whatever's happening in one person's life. That too is going to allow her to build in terms of the depression, the grief, and it again raises that blood sugar, raises that blood pressure because a person is still trying to cope with this. They're psychologically fighting or fleeing from the situation.
Mm.
So what I do, depending upon the circumstances, one of the tools that I like to use is what's called directing the energy. So we talked a bit about identifying where, let's say, a person's grief is, or a person's frustration is, a person's resentment is. A short story that I had a gentleman pull in one day, and he was obviously in an elevated state. He was upset. He even parked in the crazy wrong parking way, and he came
Hmm.
out. He was just upset. And as I talked to him, I said I had to figure out what was going on. And he started telling me about this big blowout that he had with his significant other. And so I sat him down and I, got him to get him in a space where he wasn't yelling and screaming about it. and get a little focus. And I asked him to kind of scan his body and see if he can identify where the frustration is feeling, where it's residing, when that energy is kind of concentrated. And then he did. I said, okay, well, now you point to it. I had him point to it. He points it out. Now, here's what's interesting. The antidote for grief, resentment, hatred, the antidote is acknowledgement and love. So I had him point it out, and at this point, he was able to identify. And so I said, what you to do is you address your pain. And I got him to say, thank you for letting me know that this is a problem. And then helped him to realize it's a problem that he can solve. It's not a permanent issue. There is no danger. There is peace. And then he wanted to say, find yourself a bit of peace. And just imagine that. Just think about where you're at. If you find that peaceful place, and you have that in your mind for a second. Now, I want you to see that in your hand. You take that peace, take that energy of that peace. If there was a color that would represent that energy of peace, what would it be? And he said, in this case, it's blue. I said, oh, great. Now look at that blue and see that is how it glows. See how beautiful and strong it glows. I want you to take that blue and I want you to point to the place where you feel that resentment. I want you to send it peace. Just feel that blue energy going into that piece and see what's happening now as that piece begins to sink in, how it begins to go around and inside and all through where that resentment is. I want you to imagine. And as he began to imagine, you could just see him calm down. You could see tension go out of his face. And at that point, he was able to take his blood pressure and it had gone down several notches. Then we went into some breath work, and doing just the breath work in itself just brought him right back down to base level. Okay. After that, you give him some action steps in terms of, well, what do you need to eat tonight that's going to give you the peace? Okay. Tonight is not a night for Bojangles. Tonight is not a night for KFC. Tonight is a night where you are going to continue to get rid of your energy by going in your kitchen and take your time and doing the work to prepare a nice meal. Picked out some things, we set it up for him, how to do things, and guess what? He was able to not just calm down, but put himself in a happy state. It's amazing to see what a person can do once they're able to identify and then thank that pain, because the body is designed to express itself that way. And so when he did that, then it began to dissipate. And you know what else? The nice story is he was able to come to a resolution with his significant other, and they both had a nice meal, you know? Yeah. And that's the power of it, you know? Another experience in terms of grief, one of my clients, I got a call from his wife, and he was just dealing with the death of his mom. And it was really the problem there was in his mind, he kept seeing that image of her in the morgue. And it was playing, it was a loop, playing over and over and over again. And the poor guy was in no shape for the whole day. He was just broken down. So in this case, I went over to the house and, you know, he was there and we were talking a little bit about it. And as we began to talk, I know him, he's always been a funny guy, and he gets his sense of humor from his mom. And they would laugh and talk and joke together. And so I asked him about that. and he began to brighten up about it. And he told this one funny story about his mom, and it was something that they did that happened, and he would just break out laughing. And at that point, one of the tools I was able to use was something called anchoring, because when he was in that peak state, I reached over and I tapped him on a certain area. And then he kind of changed the subject, but I brought him back to that same conversation again. He started laughing and talking again and getting into it again because he's telling me more about it. And when he got into that peak state again, he tapped him again. And then we did it one more time. And then as we began to talk, again, the image of his mom started looping in his head, looping in his head, looping, and you could just see him going down. He started breaking down again. At this time, I just reached over and tapped. And boom, he went right back in the state of happiness and joy, laughing about his mom and how much fun they had together. And then we future paced it by imagining a time, because we have a strong belief of the resurrection. And the Bible promises that there'll be a resurrection of the righteous and the unrighteous, and so we have that strong belief in that. So we future paced it in terms of seeing mom again happy and alive and healthy, and all the laughter and joy that you can have. And we anchored that. So afterwards, I said, now, how do you feel? He says, I feel good now. I'm okay. I said, what's going to happen later on? He says, I know I'm going to start feeling bad again. So told him what to do. So you start feeling yourself bad, tap yourself right there. And later on, I called him. He said, hey, man, it worked. I don't know what happened, but I started feeling bad. I tapped myself in the neck. I'm thinking about mom, and I'm laughing and everything else. These are things that happen that we have to use to help individuals to get past and over the challenges and struggles, the hurdles that people deal with day in and day out.
Right.
See? And it's not just in terms of grief. There are a lot of things in terms of just wanting to move to the next level that we have to help with. That's why my show, both my YouTube channel and my business is called Crush Your Mountain, because all of us have mountains that, hey, you can climb it and endure it if you want to. That's on you. Me, I like to just work at it until I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that means you grab your pickaxe, you grab your tools, you grab your tools. Doesn't have to be dynamite, okay? It can be just that thing. It could be water that slowly wears away at the mountain until it crushes it through and it makes its own lagoon, makes its own little tunnel, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you can go through. Because all of us have something that we're dealing with. And the idea, if we want to just live it, that's what they want us to do. The health community wants you to just climb your mountain, keep taking the drug until it finally kills you, and we got a great burial plan for you, and we got a great insurance for your family. Or you can live your life to the fullest, take your things and work your way through it, and come out joyful at the other end.
I like that, man, because, like everything that I was going to ask you, you just segued right into it. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and keep doing your thing, man. I'm right here with you because I have everything that you're saying, I totally agree with, right? Because it's in line with everything that I do in trying to help people and assisting them in moving through the grief. Understanding, I just do it in a different way, right? Like in meetings and stuff, I do set up the foods and things like that, talk to them about the importance of daily exercise, getting sleep. And, those that know me, they know I really don't sleep that often. So it's like the kettle calling, it's like the cat calling the kettle black, you know what I'm saying? So, but I do preach, I try to practice what I preach as far as eating healthy, exercise and things like that. I just recently got back into the gym. And so it's been a long time coming, but I had to wait till I was stable as well. But now all of those different things, but, understanding how to work with those individuals that are going through the heaviness of the loss. And, the breath work. I'm a firm believer in that. Me and a colleague of mine, starting next month, we're starting a Wellness Wednesday group. We come in, we're going to do guided meditations and breath work, understanding how to do, helping other people understand how to do the shadow work that comes along with that, right? The unveiling, like, as we like to call it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because if once you have a good understanding of what grief really is, the healing process would take you down so many different roads, and begin to pull back the veil.
Yes.
Right? And then we can begin to get down to the core part that needs that healing work. And everything ties itself into everything else. The most ridiculous thing I've ever been told one time before. I'm not going to call this person out, but if they're listening, they know that I'm talking about them. They said, they had told me, well, what if I want to be big? I just kind of looked at the individual. I said, then you're going to be doing that on your own, because that makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. You're going to welcome the health problems.
Right.
Why? And so to each their own, man. To each their own. And who am I to talk down on anyone? I used to be a 313 pound bodybuilder, right? You know what I'm saying? And you would think 313 pounds bodybuilder, those two things go hand in hand, right? But when you think about it, there's health challenges that come along with that as well.
Yes.
And I had to get myself back down to a reasonable weight to where I can breathe.
Yes. Yeah. That's the biggest challenge is the balance. And it's sad to say, but we got to keep in mind that there is a psychological aspect to things. And when the individuals have the addiction, okay, and that's really what it comes down to, addiction.
Right.
Because when a person says that to you, it's just the same way as a person that says, hey, I know these things here, I know these cigarettes, they're bad for me. I know that, but hey, look, but hey, I like doing what I do. Okay, when they think that way, they're just saying it. That's the addiction talking, and we're not in that space. At least I'm not in that space to change what a person doesn't want. When a person doesn't want to change. In fact, God Himself is not going to change you unless you want to change. You see, the psalmist David said, make me know your ways. He said, I want to change. I just don't know how to get there. So he says, make me do it. So that's where the willingness has to come in. But if in fact we are saying, this is who I am and this is how I like how I am, then hey, I can't, that's not where, we're not the police. We're not the Gestapo. We're not here to force you to be anything other than what you will allow yourself to be.
Exactly. We want people to be healthy. But like you said, you have to actually want that as well. You have to want something good out of your life. Unfortunately, what happens is that I think a lot of times people hit their rock bottom. Then they find themselves in a situation to where, they're being told you got to have this medication to do this and this medication to do that, and et cetera. And it could all be avoided, right? But that addiction is a mother, man.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, man, because I got another one I gotta jump on directly after this. But I'm gonna be on the, hey, you guys, you said your channel is on YouTube. Crush Your Mountain Coaching is on YouTube. You guys go check him out over there. Now, before I let you go, Henry, if you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Make your doctor your teammate in your health, not your boss. If you have a doctor that's not going to listen to you and just going to tell you what to do, find another doctor. If your doctor can't have a conversation about your health and your health goals, if he can't do that, find another doctor. But most importantly, get yourself a partner an accountability coach, or someone that's going to guide you so that you can reach the state that you need to reach. Now, just to let everyone know, I've got, and I know you got to hustle, so I'll make it short. I've got an event coming up later on in the fall. It's our Shinrin Yoku forest bathing event, where we actually basically do a meditative walk in the forest. I'm here down in Raleigh, North Carolina. I will let you know. I will have a website up specifically for that coming up soon. You can find me at henrygaskinscoach.com. The website is still has some kinks in it, but I will have that up and available, and the dates and everything else as far as when it's going to happen. We're going to have not just the forest bathing where we're walking into the forest and doing a meditative walk. We're also going to do some grounding and understand why grounding or earthing is so important to the body. A simple thing is just having your feet planted on the ground without your shoes has a great significance to the health of the body. And we're also going to have some movement in the form of Qigong. And Qigong is an ancient technique, an ancient technology that helps you to tap into your body's natural life energy. And I'm planning to have a Qigong master to teach how to do that, certain things that can be done. So it's going to be a nice little event. It's not going to be a whole lot of hoopla. Don't expect a whole lot of dancing and sounds and stuff, because we're tapping into the natural environment of the planet, of the forest, and really absorbing the beautiful energies there, the things that will build our microbiome. We have a lot to talk about, Tony, okay, because we haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh, I'm already knowing. Look, we're going to do this again.
Yes, sir.
We're definitely going to do this again, right? You know what I'm saying? And this the next time we're just going to take some time. We're going to unpack a whole lot more because, like you said, we just barely scratching the surface, giving the people something to look forward to, right? I'm going to be on your show. We're going to be doing a whole lot more leading up to everything that you got coming up, man. Because I definitely want to make sure that we get the word out there. People know where to find you. All those beautiful things, man, you know what I'm saying? Because we knew that this was going to happen. We knew that once we got to going, we just wanted a little bit more time for us to be able to talk, you know what I'm saying, unpack all of these beautiful things, man. And for everyone who's been tuning in from Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys make it, make it so much a lot of fun to be able to bring these stories to you guys, to be able to bring this information to you guys, but to also show you guys that there are people out here that are out here doing amazing things. Go back and check them out, please. You know what I'm saying? Like Henry just said, we haven't even scratched the surface on it. We haven't even scratched the surface on it. And we're going to be doing this again. We're going to be doing so much more coming up as well. So with that being said, you guys, if you have not already, do me a favor, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you can be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And I'm doing back-to-back episodes today. So, you know what I'm saying? I got another one coming up in here in a few. So you guys keep your eyes out on that. Go back and check out Henry's podcast. Check out his website. Let him know that I sent you. That way he knows that you guys saw him on the podcast and everything. And we're changing people's lives one person at a time through nutrition, exercise, through resources, through walking with you in your darkest moments. You don't have to do this alone, and you can always be healthy while you're doing it as well. Henry, again, thank you for being on the show, my brother. Let's do this again. All right.
Don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. See you guys soon.
All right, my brother. You guys, we'll see you guys in the next one. All right. You guys have a great day.
Okay.